Beautiful people, hello Afro Diaspora. This is part 2, Les Chevallier. We are continuing with his story. Go check out part 1. The French Revolution. In July 1789, a bloody revolution in France shook the world. At this moment, Chevallier was 44 years old, entering another phase in his life. Chevallier was exposed to a life of luxury, opulence, a music and fencing career to be proud of. Yet, the color of his skin seemed to be the main focus for white France. The French Revolution was a beacon of hope. When the French decided to intervene in the American Revolution of 1778 till 1782, they didn't thought it would cost them the monarchy. The French applied the old rule of your enemies are my enemies. This resulted in an empty bank account, and the people were demanding food, and if not, the ruling class would pay a high price. The guillotine was ready to behead those in charge. And why not start with the highest in the hierarchy chain, King Louis XVI and Queen Marie-Antoinette? Their heads satisfied the anger of the poor. The belief that kings and queens were seen as representatives of God on earth had reached an end. The world was changing, and the Enlightenment era brought destruction, but it also awakened the consciousness of many. Equality for all was the promise during the French Revolution. This slogan resonated with Les Chevallier. Despite his success as a musician and fencer, his pedigree, the son of an aristocrat and a black formerly enslaved woman, would always haunt him if nothing changed. Chevallier wanted to be part of this change in history. He started to give his undivided time to the abolitionist movement by traveling to England and giving speeches to party members. In one of those speeches, he decided to call out the atrocities of slavery, stating, quote, "Because they're friends, the blacks were only enslaved because whites didn't want to do the hard work in the fields. When you look us in the eye, you are more afraid of us than we are of you, for you have declared us devils." End quote. Chevallier got a thunderous applause, and the Prince of Wales, who sat in the audience, later invited him at the palace and suggested moving to England for the cause. Chevallier refused. He thought the prince just wanted to use him, and he was done being used as a show pony. Chevallier combined his visit to England with a fencing match against the English spy Dion, who disguised himself as a woman for his espionage work. Chevallier defeated the master spy and said he was a diplomat who dressed up as a woman to spy for political reasons. He fenced great. He was older than me, but his condition proved commendable. In the end, I was able to beat him after a few long games. Back in France, Chevallier plunged into the revolutionary struggle, claiming individuality and the right to exist as a full human being. So he earned a rank as captain in the National Guard. The revolution in France flared up a resistance in the French colonies, where enslaved people suffered the terrible fate of abhorrent treatment on the sugar plantations, all for the price of the white gold. Saint-Domingue, present-day Haiti, Guadeloupe, where Chevallier came from, decided that the dehumanization of blacks had to be stopped, and intensified contact was established between the fighters of the revolution in France and the slavery resistance. In 1791, Julien Raymond, an activist of Saint-Domingue, the son of a wealthy Creole woman and a French plantation owner, lobbied for an all-black legion. Interestingly, his family owned plantations themselves, quite controversial when you fight for equal rights. Wrong as it may seem, this was the case with many wealthy free Creole families, rejecting oppression while participating in it themselves, indicating that in their minds they deserved a higher position in the race hierarchy, a form of enslavement of the conscious. A background of the Creole elite in the French colonies, Saint-Domingue. Over the years, an elite class had developed in Saint-Domingue. These were Creoles who were born in mixed relationships. Only there was a problem. The white plantation owners felt their superiority was compromised. A law was the solution. It was forbidden to dress as beautifully as the whites, to own the same luxury products, and so on. A dangerous power struggle that would end in a bloody war. And Julian Raymond knew he would need a military force to back him up. So an all-black legion was a strategic move. Julian Raymond approached Chevalier, and Chevalier became colonel of the army of the Black Legion. Soon, this all-black army was known as the Saint-George Legion. When the slave revolt on the island intensified, the government decided to use the men of the Black Legion. The order was to crush the resistance. That didn't go as planned. Chevalier and General Dumas. In his battle for equality, the famous General Dumas, more commonly known as the Black Count, joined the Black Legion. Dumas was a black man who achieved military fame and rose to the highest rank ever attained by a man of his lineage. His son, Alexandre Dumas, the French novelist famously known for his work, The Count of Monte Cristo and The Three Musketeers, was inspired by the outstanding accomplishment of his father. Biographer of Dumas, Tom Reiss, reported that Dumas' reputation preceded him, and any legion wanted to recruit General Dumas. Les Chevallier entered this bidding war for Dumas by offering him the rank of lieutenant colonel and the second in command of the Black Legions. Dumas agreed, and together they led the legion. In 1793, Chevalier and Dumas saved the revolution because they were approached by General Dumouriez and General Maxinski to join them and crown the son of the dead King Louis XVI and to free Marie-Antoinette. Dumouriez wanted to restore the old aristocratic ruling, but bringing back the monarchy would destroy the hope for equality. Chevalier and Dumas arrested Maxinski, and Dumouriez fled to Brussels. Despite his significant military achievements, music and fencing did not fade into the background. Chevalier continued to compose and fenced. At this point in his life, 48 years old, he had also experienced exclusion in marriage. Compared to Dumas, who was married, Dumas married a girl from a middle-class family who accepted him. Chevalier reportedly had lovers but no supportive partner to vent his difficulties. Marrying an aristocratic woman was forbidden because of the Code Noir, a rule decreed by King Louis XIV. This rule forbids the marriage of mixed couples. Chevalier had no future with the woman he had pledged his heart to. Even when they lost their child, they were denied being together. He was not lonely for attention, but a casual relationship here and there has little depth, so he found solace in music and fighting for equality. And yet his accomplishments were not recognized by the new government. Instead, his hard work was tarnished by accusing him of theft. He would have used the money for military rations to buy horses. No evidence of this claim was found, yet Chevalier paid a high price for these false allegations. There are noted accounts that Chevalier put all the blame for mismanaging the finances on General Dumas. In his biography, novelist Dumas invents a comical story about how Chevalier challenged his father, who was sick in bed, to a duel. Chevalier fell into Dumas's arms after yelling insults. After this dramatic turn, the two reconciled and had breakfast together. The story that they became enemies was a complete fabrication, said Dumas. Evidence about theft by Chevalier was never found. Yet Chevalier went to prison without trial for a year. After his release, Chevalier signed an appeal and pleaded for ratification. He was dishonorably discharged. While Chevalier was in prison in 1795, this difficult time was marked by the death of his mother Nanon. In the years of racial turmoil, Nanon changed her name to Anne Denevue. Getting rid of their familial ties could make his persuasion toward acceptance easier was what she thought, according to biographer Pierre Bardin. Nanon's friendly neighbors found her body and notified the authorities. Nanon was 72 years old. She left a will stating Chevalier as her sole beneficiary. After the death of George de Bologne in 1765, Nanon and their son Joseph received a share of the inheritance. Nanon inherited an amount of £3,000, the equivalent of $678,000 today. For his son, he left $50,000 worth $11 million today. The price for freedom was blood and destruction, costing many lives. Although beaten down by the authorities, Chevalier did not give up his fight for freedom and equality. He soon joined the revolution in Saint-Domingue. Unfortunately, Chevalier did not live to see Haiti's victory over French oppression. In 1801, only 2 years after his death, Haiti declared its independence. In his final years, Chevalier moved into an apartment, sick with bladder cancer and gangrene, reportedly contracted in Saint-Domingue. On his deathbed, Chevalier reminisced about his past, saying, quote, "My beautiful muscular brown body, an instrument of lust and supple dexterity, once coveted by hordes of yearning women, and hated by my opponents in the duel, in all its pity, longs for the accursed farewell." Joseph de Bologne, Les Chevallier de Saint-George, died at the home of his longtime friend, Nicolas Duhamel, on June 12, 1799. His music ended up being forgotten for 2 centuries due to Napoleon's ban on all accomplishments of blacks in Europe. By the time this ban got removed, new composers had come to the scene. The genius Joseph de Bologne, Les Chevallier de Saint-George, left his mark on the world as a remarkable musician and fencer. He had to challenge ignorance and the harmful principles of a degrading ideology, but his resilience and courage kept him standing tall. His legacy will live on if we keep telling his story. He is not the Black Mozart. He is Joseph de Bologne, Les Chevallier de Saint-George, the best and most likely the only black music composer of the 18th century, a lightning-fast fencer and military hero. Honor him by respecting his name. By calling him the Black Mozart is degrading his outstanding effort in the classical genre. If you haven't listened to his music yet, you should. My favorite is Allegro, happy and energetic, just as I imagined him to be. What did you know about Saint-George? How does his story inspire you? And people from the island of Guadeloupe, did you know about Les Chevalier? Don't forget to subscribe and click your notification bell, because the next story will be about General Dumas, the Black Count.